Have you ever noticed how, in most conversations, the first thing we ask someone is, "What do you do?" And most of us reply with a title: "I'm a teacher, I'm a designer, I'm an entrepreneur," but the truth is, none of that really tells anyone who you are. Because what you do is just a label. It's not the story. It doesn't reveal what drives you to get out of bed each morning, or what makes your eyes light up when you talk about something that matters. When you tell people what you do, you give them information. When you show them why you do it, you give them meaning. Think about the people who inspire you. They rarely start with what they do. They start with what they believe. They talk about change, possibility, purpose, and suddenly you want to know what they do. Their work becomes a reflection of their belief, not their identity. Here's the irony: when we stop trying to tell people what we do, they become more interested. Because now they're curious, they want to understand how your purpose comes to life. They want to see your values in action. Never tell people what you do, show them who you are. Let your actions, your passion, and your consistency speak louder than your introduction ever could. When people feel your purpose, your work becomes unforgettable. Because in the end, it's not about what you do. It's about why you do it, and how you make others feel along the way. Every individual carries a story deeper than the surface of their profession. A job title may describe one's role, but it never captures the essence of why a person chose that role in the first place. When we introduce ourselves through titles, we limit our identity to functions and tasks. However, when we begin from purpose, we expand into meaning. The power of purpose over profession lies in the shift from explaining what we do to expressing why it matters. This transformation not only changes how others perceive us, but also how we understand ourselves. Purpose gives context to our work. It defines the emotional and moral framework that guides our actions. For example, a teacher who says, "I educate students," informs others of a profession. But a teacher who says, "I help young minds discover their potential," communicates a purpose. The latter resonates because it speaks to values, not duties. The essence of influence lies in that resonance. When people understand your purpose, they no longer see you as someone performing a job. They see you as someone fulfilling a mission. Profession belongs to the realm of logic. Purpose belongs to the realm of meaning. Logic tells us how, meaning tells us why. People might understand your profession, but they feel your purpose. Human connection depends on emotion far more than information. It is the emotional thread that binds people to ideas, movements, and individuals. When we communicate purpose, we activate empathy and trust. The listener no longer evaluates you, they relate to you. That shift transforms an ordinary conversation into an exchange of belief. Purpose also acts as a compass. In times of change or uncertainty, profession may lose stability, but purpose remains steady. Titles can change, roles can evolve, industries can collapse, but the reason you do what you do endures. A doctor driven by the purpose of healing will continue to seek ways to relieve suffering, even if they step outside traditional medicine. A designer guided by the purpose of solving problems through creativity will find meaning in any form of innovation. Purpose transcends position. It keeps individuals grounded when external definitions fade. From an educational perspective, understanding this difference has powerful implications for leadership, motivation, and communication. Students and professionals alike are often encouraged to choose a career, yet very few are asked to discover a purpose. The former focuses on doing, the latter focuses on being. When education or professional development is anchored in purpose, learning becomes intrinsically motivated. People perform not for validation, but for fulfillment. This is why the most passionate individuals in any field are not necessarily those with the highest titles. They are those whose purpose gives their work emotional fuel. When people lead with profession, conversations tend to close quickly. "I'm an engineer," "I'm a lawyer," "I'm a writer." The statement ends there, but when people lead with purpose, the conversation opens. "I'm passionate about building systems that make life easier." "I help people find justice." I tell stories that make others feel seen. Purpose invites curiosity. It turns introductions into invitations. It draws people into your world rather than defining your boundaries. In the context of leadership and influence, this principle becomes even more critical. People do not follow leaders for their titles. They follow them because of what they stand for. Purpose communicates direction. When a leader consistently acts in alignment with their beliefs, trust grows naturally. Teams become motivated not by obligation but by shared meaning. This is the foundation of authentic leadership, clarity of purpose that inspires others to connect emotionally, not just follow procedurally. Purpose-driven communication also shapes perception. In professional settings, many individuals believe that credibility is built by listing accomplishments. While achievements matter, they are only impactful when they reflect a deeper intent. People are drawn to authenticity, and authenticity comes from expressing the underlying reason behind those achievements. Saying, "I led a successful project," informs. Saying, "I led a project that improved people's lives," inspires. The difference lies in emotional significance. Purpose reframes success from being self-centered to being value-centered. Another dimension of purpose is sustainability. Profession can lead to fatigue when detached from meaning. Purpose sustains motivation because it provides emotional nourishment. It connects daily effort to a larger narrative. When challenges arise, people anchored in purpose endure because they see beyond the immediate struggle. Their energy comes from alignment, not external reward. This is evident in teachers who continue to inspire despite limited resources, or in scientists who persist through failed experiments driven by the belief that discovery matters. Purpose also nurtures humility. When we see our work as part of something greater than ourselves, ego takes a secondary place. We become more open to learning, collaboration, and feedback. Profession may emphasize competition. Purpose encourages contribution. This mindset transforms work into service. It aligns personal growth with social impact, turning ordinary professions into vehicles for collective progress. Leading with purpose enriches communication. When individuals express their purpose clearly, they create authenticity in every interaction. Others sense conviction rather than performance. Words gain weight because they reflect lived experience. This is why the most memorable communicators, regardless of field, speak from belief. They do not aim to impress. They aim to express something meaningful. Purpose gives voice to passion and clarity to intention, creating a lasting impression that no title can match. The power of purpose over profession is the power of meaning over information, emotion over description, and belief over position. It transforms how we connect, how we lead, and how we live. When people communicate only through logic, titles, tasks, and technicalities, the interaction remains transactional. It passes information, but it doesn't build a bridge. Emotional connection is what transforms a simple exchange into a relationship. Trust does not emerge from knowing what someone does. It emerges from understanding who they are. Human beings are wired to respond to stories, motivations, and feelings long before facts and figures. When you share the deeper intention behind your actions, you tap into the emotional center of communication, the space where trust begins to form. Emotional connection is not about being sentimental, it is about being human. When someone expresses the value behind their work, perhaps a desire to serve, to create, to protect, or to uplift, they reveal a part of themselves that a mere job description can never capture. This expression of value creates a sense of familiarity. People recognize something in you that resonates with their own experiences or beliefs. That resonance is the first thread of trust. We trust those who seem to understand us, even without explicitly saying so. Emotional connection signals understanding, alignment, and sincerity. Trust also deepens through vulnerability. When individuals share why they care about their work, they are opening a door to their internal world. They communicate not just competence but conviction, not just skill but sincerity. This vulnerability does not weaken credibility, it strengthens it. People gravitate toward those who are confident enough to show genuine passion or personal motivation. It demonstrates that their actions come from a place of authenticity rather than performance or expectation. Vulnerability is a rare currency in communication, and because it is rare, it is powerful. Emotional connection influences memory as well. Facts may be forgotten, but feelings linger when someone speaks in a way that stirs emotion, perhaps through a story or a shared purpose. The listener retains not only the message but also the feeling attached to it. This emotional imprint becomes a foundation for trust. The brain associates that person with the feeling of connection, understanding, or inspiration. Over time, this emotional memory becomes a form of credibility. People return not because of obligation, but because of the way the interaction made them feel. From an educational standpoint, emotional connection changes learning outcomes. Students, employees, or audiences engage more deeply when they feel emotionally connected to the instructor or speaker. They feel safe to ask questions, explore ideas, and participate actively because trust reduces fear of judgment. An instructor who expresses passion for the subject or a leader who shares the belief behind the mission inspires a level of engagement that information alone cannot achieve. Emotion creates relevance, relevance creates curiosity, curiosity drives learning. In professional environments, many individuals assume that expertise is the core of credibility. Expertise is essential, but without emotional connection, it often remains inaccessible. A leader who possesses exceptional knowledge but fails to connect emotionally may be respected but not followed. Meanwhile, a leader who communicates from a place of purpose and empathy generates loyalty. Trust rooted in emotional connection creates stronger teams, healthier collaboration, and more open communication. People feel valued not only for their tasks but for their presence. Emotional connection also drives loyalty in relationships, organizations, and communities. When people feel emotionally attached to a person or an idea, they remain committed even when challenges arise. This is why profound loyalty often forms not around roles but around shared feelings: hope, passion, belief, or gratitude. A team member who trusts their leader emotionally is more willing to take risks, innovate, or step into discomfort because they feel supported. Emotional trust reduces fear, which is one of the biggest barriers to creativity and progress. Another significant aspect is communication depth. When we speak only at the surface level, job titles, responsibilities, tasks, we limit the depth of our connections. These communications are efficient but shallow. When we speak from emotional truth, beliefs, motivations, values, we create depth. People understand not just what we stand for, but why we stand for it. This depth fosters stronger, more meaningful relationships that can stand the test of time. Emotional connection invites depth. Depth nurtures sustainable trust. Emotion also enhances persuasion. Logical arguments inform the mind, but emotional resonance moves the heart. For someone to change their perspective, adopt an idea, or join a mission, they must feel something that persuades them internally. This internal shift is not triggered by facts alone, but by emotional signals, empathy, passion, conviction, or shared experience. The most persuasive communicators do not overwhelm with information. They anchor their message in emotional truth. They speak in ways that people can feel. Emotional connection strengthens authenticity. When individuals express emotion tied to purpose, they reveal consistency between their inner world and their outward actions. People trust those who act in alignment with their values. Authenticity is recognized intuitively. When someone communicates from emotion, listeners sense that the message comes from a grounded, honest place. Authenticity builds trust because it suggests reliability and integrity. People want to invest their trust in individuals who are stable in who they are. Emotional connection is not an accessory to communication. It is the foundation of trust itself. Without it, interactions remain functional but fragile. With it, relationships become meaningful, resilient, and enduring. Trust grows naturally when people feel emotionally seen and understood, and this emotional trust becomes the driving force behind collaboration, influence, and genuine human connection. Influence grows stronger when it is discovered rather than declared. When people find out who you are through observation, experience, and consistency, their perception becomes grounded in authenticity. Declaring what you do or how capable you are creates an impression of self-promotion, while letting people discover your value through your actions builds credibility. Discovery allows trust to form naturally because it shifts focus from self-description to demonstrated behavior. People believe what they experience, not what they are told. When individuals constantly declare their achievements, they unintentionally create distance. The listener becomes passive, receiving information instead of forming an opinion. But when individuals act with integrity, purpose, and consistency, others become active participants in the discovery process. They begin to interpret actions, align them with values, and conclude for themselves what kind of person stands before them. This personal discovery creates ownership. People trust conclusions they reach on their own more deeply than those imposed upon them. The process of letting others discover your worth involves subtlety and patience. It requires confidence in your values and clarity in your purpose. You must trust that your behavior, not your explanation, will communicate your intent. Every consistent action becomes a silent statement of who you are. For instance, a teacher who quietly invests time in struggling students does not need to announce dedication. It is visible. A leader who listens before speaking does not need to declare empathy. It is felt. Discovery happens when evidence of character outweighs the need for description. This principle operates at both interpersonal and organizational levels. In professional environments, people often feel pressure to assert their roles, skills, and competence. Yet, the most respected professionals rarely speak about their abilities. They demonstrate them. Their work, reliability, and integrity do the speaking. Over time, others recognize their value, creating an earned reputation rather than a claimed one. In contrast, those who frequently announce their competence often come across as insecure, compensating for what they fear others might not see. True confidence is quiet because it relies on demonstration rather than declaration. Letting people discover who you are also aligns with how human cognition works. The brain remembers experiences far more vividly than statements. When someone tells you they are trustworthy, it registers as information. But when you experience their reliability repeatedly, it registers as belief. Belief has emotional weight. It forms through pattern recognition and consistency. The more people observe congruence between your words and your actions, the stronger their trust becomes. Discovery transforms observation into conviction. Another dimension of this idea is humility. Allowing others to discover your strengths implies that you do not need constant validation. Humility creates space for others to form their impressions without manipulation. It signals that you are comfortable letting your work speak for itself. This restraint enhances credibility because people are naturally skeptical of self-promotion but deeply respectful of authenticity. Humility also invites curiosity. When you do not overshare about what you do, people become more interested in finding out for themselves. They ask questions, pay attention, and engage with you on a deeper level. In leadership, this principle carries particular power. Great leaders rarely announce their leadership. They show it through empathy, decision-making, and consistency. Their followers recognize leadership not because it is declared, but because it is experienced. When leaders rely on title or position to assert authority, they gain compliance. When they let people see their leadership, they gain commitment. Discovery fosters loyalty because it engages emotion and respect simultaneously. From a psychological perspective, self-declaration activates a defensive response in listeners. When someone declares greatness, intelligence, or morality, others instinctively question it. They search for inconsistencies to verify the claim. But when someone simply acts in alignment with their values, the observer relaxes and accepts the authenticity of the behavior. This is why self-praise often backfires. Discovery, on the other hand, disarms skepticism and builds genuine admiration. Letting people discover your worth also enhances storytelling. In communication, showing is always stronger than telling. Instead of saying, "I'm passionate about helping others," sharing a real example of action, helping someone overcome a challenge or solving a meaningful problem, makes passion visible. The story itself becomes the evidence. Discovery invites the listener to interpret meaning instead of being handed a conclusion. That involvement creates emotional engagement and memory retention. Patience plays a crucial role in this approach. Discovery takes time because it relies on consistency. One act can impress, but repeated actions build belief. This is especially true in relationships, where people evaluate character through experience. Declaring loyalty means little, demonstrating it in difficult times defines it. Over time, the pattern of behavior becomes the silent declaration that others trust. Discovery-based credibility is slower to form but longer to last. This concept also nurtures respect. When people come to recognize your abilities or character on their own, they feel a sense of pride in their realization. They feel they have found something valuable. That sense of ownership deepens their respect and connection to you. It transforms admiration into advocacy. They do not just acknowledge your value, they share it with others because it feels authentic and self-earned. In an educational or professional setting, allowing others to discover your competence creates empowerment rather than dependency. When students, colleagues, or team members realize your expertise through observation, they learn to value performance and integrity over self-description. This models a culture where merit is seen, not spoken. It encourages others to adopt similar behavior, emphasizing authenticity and substance over appearance. Ultimately, letting people discover rather than declare nurtures influence grounded in authenticity, humility, and patience. It replaces persuasion with presence. Each consistent action, each moment of integrity, becomes a quiet invitation for others to see who you truly are. Authenticity is the foundation upon which genuine inspiration is built. It is the alignment between what one believes, what one says, and what one does. People are naturally drawn to individuals whose behavior reflects their inner truth. Authenticity eliminates pretense and creates an atmosphere of trust. When someone speaks or acts from a place of sincerity, others sense it instinctively. Inspiration is not born from perfection. It is born from realness. Authentic individuals do not try to appear flawless. They simply express themselves honestly, and that honesty resonates more deeply than any performance ever could. Authenticity communicates integrity. It shows that a person's motivations are transparent and consistent. In a world saturated with filtered images, exaggerated claims, and polished appearances, authenticity stands out as something rare and refreshing. People no longer seek the most impressive voices. They seek the most truthful ones. The power of authenticity lies in its ability to make people feel safe to be themselves. When someone demonstrates that being real is more important than being right, they give others permission to do the same. That shared sense of honesty forms the emotional bond that precedes inspiration. Authentic individuals inspire because they lead by example, not by instruction. They do not demand belief, they demonstrate belief. Their actions become living evidence of their words. This consistency makes their influence credible. Listeners do not need persuasion when they can witness integrity in action. Authenticity transforms leadership from a position of authority into a presence of example. People follow authenticity because it embodies courage, the courage to remain true even when it's inconvenient or unpopular. Authenticity also amplifies emotional connection. When people express their genuine experiences, others recognize their own stories within them. Vulnerability becomes a channel of shared humanity. An authentic speaker who admits fear, doubt, or failure instantly becomes relatable. Listeners feel seen because authenticity mirrors their own imperfections. This creates a bond far stronger than admiration. It builds belonging. Inspiration rooted in authenticity does not elevate one person above others. It invites everyone to rise together. In education, authenticity transforms teaching from instruction to connection. A teacher who openly shares personal experiences or genuine enthusiasm for a subject makes learning feel alive. Students respond to the authenticity of emotion more than to the precision of information. They engage not because they have to, but because they want to. Authentic educators make knowledge meaningful by showing that passion and honesty are integral to learning. Similarly, in leadership, authentic communication cultivates loyalty. Employees trust leaders who express their true thoughts, acknowledge challenges, and admit mistakes. This honesty fosters psychological safety, the sense that people can speak freely without fear of judgment. Authenticity also creates sustainability in influence. Pretending or exaggerating requires effort to maintain, while being genuine demands none. A person who constantly projects an image must protect it, but someone who lives authentically has nothing to defend. This freedom allows consistent energy and focus. People who lead authentically can sustain inspiration because their actions are an extension of their identity, not a performance. The energy of authenticity is self-renewing because it draws from truth, not from external validation. Another aspect of authenticity is alignment between inner values and outward behavior. When values are clear, decisions become transparent. This clarity makes it easier for others to trust intentions. Authentic people do not shift their principles based on convenience. They remain consistent even under pressure. Consistency reinforces reliability, and reliability builds inspiration. People admire those who stand firm in their beliefs because it demonstrates strength of character. Inspiration arises when others witness that stability and aspire to develop it within themselves. Authenticity also dismantles the barrier of hierarchy. When individuals communicate authentically, they remove the distance that titles, achievements, or social roles can create. A leader who speaks from the heart ceases to be a distant authority and becomes a relatable human being. This accessibility invites engagement. People feel empowered to contribute when they see authenticity modeled above them. The most inspiring environments are those where authenticity is encouraged at every level, where people can express ideas, admit mistakes, and pursue growth without fear of judgment. In the realm of communication, authenticity enhances persuasion not through technique, but through truth. The tone of authenticity cannot be faked. It is carried in the rhythm of speech, the expression of emotion, and the consistency between message and action. An audience may forget the words spoken, but they will always remember how genuine the speaker felt. Authentic messages bypass skepticism because they do not seek manipulation. They seek connection. They resonate because they appeal not just to intellect, but to shared emotion. Authenticity also fosters courage in others. When someone observes another person living truthfully, unafraid to be imperfect, it weakens the fear of judgment. It signals that vulnerability is not weakness but strength. This psychological permission encourages others to act in alignment with their own values. Inspiration multiplies when authenticity spreads because it creates a collective culture of honesty. Instead of competition for validation, there emerges collaboration built on respect and truth. Authenticity enhances creativity. Pretending limits imagination because it demands adherence to expectation. Authenticity, on the other hand, liberates expression. When people no longer feel the need to fit into predefined molds, they innovate freely. This creative freedom often leads to new ideas, meaningful solutions, and unique perspectives that inspire others. Creativity becomes a reflection of individuality rather than conformity. Authenticity transforms failure into learning. Because authentic individuals are not preoccupied with maintaining an image, they treat mistakes as part of the process rather than as threats to reputation. This resilience inspires others to view setbacks with the same mindset. Authentic people model growth, not perfection. Their openness about failure teaches that success is not the absence of mistakes, but the persistence of honesty through them. Observing this resilience instills hope and courage in those around them, making authenticity the most enduring source of inspiration.